Hello. This is Antya from Byte Shuffle. Thank you for always watching my videos. This time, I've put together a summary of how to play against Belcher and my sideboard strategy. In the sideboard explanation section, I've included a bonus segment on how to effectively use draw sources. Feel free to check it out if you're interested. Here is the deck list we will be using this time. It's a land-heavy hand, so I'll mulligan. I was really torn about whether to mulligan again, but I decided to keep, reasoning that even if the surveil land becomes a target for wasteland, as long as I flip a land within 2 draws, I'll be fine. I sent Lotus Petal to the bottom. I really don't want to put this card into the graveyard as it would reveal my deck, but I don't have a choice, so I'll send it to the graveyard. A tense atmosphere begins to settle in right away. It looks like I'll get another turn, so I'll focus all my efforts on finding Lion's Eye Diamond. I stacked Volcanic Island, followed by Infernal Tutor. I'll go searching for Lion's Eye Diamond, couldn't find it, so I'll shuffle. The adventure ends here. Before sideboarding, I'd like to review the list we used. First, the conclusion. I will explain it step by step. As many of you may already know, let's take a moment to review how Belcher operates. First, my opponent will generate mana using Lotus Petal, Chrome Mox, Lion's Eye Diamond, Simian Spirit Guide, Elvish Spirit Guide, Rite of Flame, and Seething Song. Next, my opponent will play Goblin Char Belcher, activate it, and secure the win. Alternatively, after generating mana, my opponent can use Echo of Aeons or Burning Wish to chain into a storm spell for the win. Up to this point, we've briefly reviewed the basic sequence of Belcher's gameplay. Here are the cards in Belcher that are relevant to ANT. First, let's talk about Vexing Bauble. The opponent is running Vexing Bauble, so they'll likely use it in combination with Veil of Summer. Additionally, the opponent may also have a few copies of Mind Break Trap or Flusterstorm, so I'll add more discard spells to my deck in response. The opponent's combo is faster than mine, so I need to disrupt their early game plays. Discarding the opponent's mana acceleration isn't a bad option. I'll side in to ensure I have enough disruption against them. Next, regarding Leyline of Sanctity and Leyline of the Void, the opponent might include a few copies depending on their strategy. They also serve as counters to Tormod's Crypt and Vexing Bauble. If the opponent preemptively plays Goblin Char Belcher to avoid my discard spells, I'll deal with it using Wear Down, Boseiju, Who Endures, or Echoing Truth. As for Wear Down, since I'm already running Burning Wish, some might argue that it's better to connect to Wear Down. By connecting Burning Wish to Wear Down, you can effectively increase the number of sideboard options. But since a 1-turn delay can determine the outcome of the game, I want to avoid losing tempo as much as possible. Therefore, I won't keep Wear Down in the sideboard. Ultimately, Burning Wish will be used as the 6th or 7th copy of Infernal Tutor. Next, let's talk about graveyard hate cards like Fairy Macabre, Surgical Extraction, and Tormod's Crypt. The opponent doesn't run many copies, but they are still somewhat mindful of the graveyard. When you want to ignore the opponent's graveyard hate and win through speed, it's time for the classic Ad Nauseam. To maximize the power of Ad Nauseam and increase the deck speed, I'll include Chrome Mox. Since the opponent isn't disrupting my mana base, I'll prioritize playing dual lands. Since there's not much time to spare, I can't afford to simply play lands either. Therefore, the value of basic lands decreases, so I'll remove all of them. Since the opponent's deck, aside from Goblin Char Belcher, is essentially a Red Storm deck, Veil of Summer is mostly ineffective. Therefore, I'll prioritize keeping discard spells and remove all Veil of Summer from the deck. Next, I'd like to dive deeper into how to effectively use draw sources. Have you ever wondered whether you should cast Ponder or Brainstorm first? I'll introduce 2 key points to consider. The first thing to keep in mind when casting a draw spell is judging your opponent's distance, or timing. The second strategy is to bait them and then cast your spell. Play an island. Cast Brainstorm or Ponder. Then, shuffle with a fetch land. I don't think anyone would argue that this usage is effective. First, let me explain the first step, which is judging the distance. Whether your opponent is playing a tempo deck or not, or a combo deck, the way you judge the distance with your opponent will vary significantly depending on whether they're playing a chalice deck. I'm sure many of you naturally judge the distance with your opponent based on the limited information available in the early game and proceed accordingly. Next, as for the second point, baiting them and then casting your spell. Play an island on turn 1. And if you cast Brainstorm right away, you can draw 3 cards. Next, play an island on your first turn and pass the turn. I'll cast Brainstorm from the island I played earlier. After that, I'll play a fetch land and shuffle, combining the 1 draw at the start of my turn with the 3 draws from Brainstorm. You'll be able to draw a total of 4 cards, increasing the number of cards you can see and raising the chances of drawing the card you need. Therefore, it's clear that the following pattern is more efficient. If your opponent is playing a tempo deck, the game won't end abruptly, so, with the previous pattern, it's clear that choosing the latter pattern would be better. Next, in the case of a chalice deck, if you play an island and pass the turn, and your opponent plays something like Ancient Tomb into Chalice of the Void, since you're being pressured to respond, you'll need to quickly find an answer, so you'll cast Brainstorm from the island. Now, imagine you're facing a fast Reanimator deck, where you have very little time left to act. I'll explain it by dividing it into 2 cases. The first case is when your hand is weak, and you want to exchange your hand quickly. Let's say your hand consists of Brainstorm, Ponder, an island, 2 lotus petals, and a Cabal ritual. At this point, you play an island. By casting Brainstorm, let's say you reveal a dark ritual, Lion's Eye Diamond, and a fetch land. You play the fetch land, search for a land, and then cast Ponder. You've efficiently cycled through your hand. Even if you hadn't revealed a fetch land from the earlier Brainstorm, you could still play an Underground Sea and cast Ponder from the Underground Sea, allowing you to shuffle. Next is when your hand is strong, and you know exactly which card you want to search for. Let's say your hand consists of Brainstorm, Ponder, an island, Dark Ritual, Duress, and Lion's Eye Diamond. The card you want to find now is Infernal Tutor. You play an island, and by casting Ponder, you can see 4 cards, even if you don't find it. You can shuffle after Ponder and then cast Brainstorm, allowing you to search for the desired card from a total of 7 cards. This concludes the explanation of the draw sources. I'll mulligan since I don't have any lands. I'm debating whether to mulligan again, but I decided to keep since Vexing Bauble and Duress can potentially disrupt my opponent's early game. I held on to Boseiju, who endures in case my opponent played a Goblin Charbelcher early or set up a ley lines. Since I don't need multiple copies of Tutor in my hand, I sent Burning Wish to the bottom. I'll start by using Vexing Bauble to disrupt my opponent's early plays. I'll use Hand Disruption to gauge the situation and assess my opponent's hand. I took out Seething Song. The effect of Surveil sends the card to the graveyard. The effect of Surveil sends the card to the graveyard. Since the situation could explode at any moment, I'll start chipping away, even if it's just with 1 mana. I took out Rite of Flame. I'll take care of Goblin Charbelcher. I'll search for Mana Acceleration. I couldn't find it, so I shuffled. I'll search for Mana Acceleration again. I'll stack Chrome Mox, ad nauseam, and another Chrome Mox in that order. then draw. I'll convert Vexing Bauble into a draw. I'm going all in. From here. As for when to stop with ad nauseam, in the case of Infernal Tutor, if your storm count is high enough and you can generate 6 mana while achieving Hellbent, you can secure the win. I'll accelerate my mana while building up the storm count. With a sufficient storm count, I'll cast Tendrils of Agony. Since this combo is slower, I'll need to endure my opponent's combo once. My opponent will cast either Goblin Charbelcher or Elemental Eruption on their first turn. Echoing Truth in my hand can respond to both scenarios, whether my opponent plays Goblin Charbelcher early or floods the board with tokens. I'm not running Force of Will in this deck, so if I get one shot killed, it just means today wasn't my day. That's why I decided to keep the hand. I'll remove the tokens. I'll search for Infernal Tutor. I stacked Polluted Delta and Misty Rainforest in that order, since revealing a mana accelerator stronger than Dark Ritual would allow me to combo this turn. I fetched a dual land instead of a Surveil land. I'm going all in. From here. Since I still have life to spare, and there's a chance my opponent drew a Graveyard Hate card from their random draw, I'll play it safe and take precautions. If I can't finish the game this turn, I'll try again in the next one. I'll accelerate my mana while building up the storm count. With a sufficient storm count, I'll cast Tendrils of Agony. Thank you for watching up to this point. I apologize for the frequent play mistakes. I hope to improve at MTG together with everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving it a thumbs up. See you in the next one. This has been ANT-ya.